role in calling a mass sit-down demonstration for nuclear disarmament in Trafalgar Square. The Joy of Sex, as his book came to be titled, vaulted comfort into another category entirely, making him, along with such figures as Havelock Ellis, Alfred Kinsey, and William Masters and Virginia Johnson, a key figure in the transformation of cultural attitudes about sex. The book was the fruit of a long personal and intellectual journey, blending elements of Comfort's anarcho-pacifist philosophy, his knowledge of the human body and medical practice, his many years of research into the sexual habits of different cultures, his own personal experience, and the communication skills he had honed as a writer and broadcaster. The combination produced one of the biggest bestsellers of the second half of the 20th century, moving more than 12 million copies to date, in various editions, and a host of languages following its appearance in 1972. It remains one of the most recognized titles in publishing history. Long before the term sex-positive gained currency, Comfort's book revolutionized the field of sex advice, establishing that writing about what happens in the bedroom and elsewhere, not to mention how it's presented in print, could be fun and engaging, dispensing with both the porn shop air and the clinical tone of the counseling that doctors tended to provide. Virtually every mainstream sex guide produced in its wake, of which there have been many, borrows something of the authorial voice, the attitude of toleration and self-discovery, and even some of the organizational structure Comfort created for his book, even when the authors deplore the more dated attitudes it expressed. In this respect, every sex-curious heterosexual couple in the years since who have turned to a book for advice on how to get more out of their experience in bed have been reading Alex Comfort, an achievement acknowledged by later sexual advisors from Dr. Ruth Westheimer to Dan Savage. For millions of readers, however, The Joy of Sex will always carry an embarrassing after-odor of the late 1960s and early 70s, grouped with such publishing artifacts as the poetry of Rod McEwen, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and self-help guides like Your Erroneous Zones. Years after it was published, its author occasionally referred to it as a bit of an albatross, because it was entirely a side project. It was purely the luck of the draw that it sold better than the 50-odd other books he had published since the age of 18. These included poetry, fiction, drama, and travel narratives, scientific papers and popular titles on human aging, geriatric medical care and psychiatry, and the practice of medicine, and books on sociology, social biology, sexual behavior, and the ethics of political activism from an anarchist perspective. They included translations from French and Sanskrit, works of political theory and analysis, and studies of the intersection of biology and religion and physics and the mind. Accompanying these were thousands of articles and pamphlets, book and art reviews, lectures, radio and television scripts, and lyrics for protest songs. In a remarkably productive life, he left his mark on a half-dozen odd different fields: gerontology, the study of aging; geriatrics, the health and care of the aged; sexology, the study of mollusks; literature, anarchism; grassroots political activism; and phenomenology. All of it, Comfort insisted, fit together as one large project. "My interest is human biology," he said in a 1974 New York Times interview. "Poetry, religion, sex are really forms of human behavior. I am interested in the whole spectrum of the biology of man." He was inspired to write novels because the novel had both drawn upon and contributed directly to psychology, social anthropology, and even physics and biology. He wrote, "Becoming a poet fed into the project as well, because good poetry could take complicated ideas, ones that needed pages of dense text to explain in prose, and make them empathic, communicable,